The Four Nimitta. There are 3 types of nimittas referenced in the scriptures. 1. Supina nimitta. Supina nimitta refers to dreams. Those who are sleeping will experience dreams. At times, those dreams are frightening. At times, they are pleasant. Sometimes, these dreams are about the body in an abnormal state. Sometimes, they are about the past. Sometimes, they are about the future. Sometimes, they are about old memories. And sometimes, they are about sensory experiences. Some people dream while asleep, while others do not. The subject matter in dreams is sometimes false and sometimes true. To illustrate, King Pasenadi of Kosala dreamed of 16 things. He related his dreams to the Buddha, and the Buddha explained the significance of the dreams in what is known as the Mahasupina Jataka. I have explained these in depth in my book entitled The Buddha's 16 Prophecies. A few of them will be discussed henceforth. King Pasenadi dreamt of various types of trees, hardly large enough to bear flowers and fruit. Yet the trees were so filled with the burden of heavy fruit and blossoming flowers that the branches could not withstand the weight. The Buddha prophesied that in the distant future, adolescent girls too young to be wed will be filled with sexual lust and desire. They will get married at a young age, against the customs of society. They will copulate without shame. Upon becoming pregnant, they will find ways to abort the baby. After birth, some children will not have parents or shelter. It will be quite pitiful. These occurrences will occur in the future. Other prophecies can be found in the book I have written. If practitioners who possess wisdom apply their dreams in terms of the Dhamma, the dreams will serve as great resources for the cultivation of wisdom. Visions are wasted if wisdom is not used to interpret them. I, for one, believe that dreams should be interpreted in order to support wisdom. They should be internalized and deciphered in terms of analogies that relate to the 4 elements and the 5 aggregates. They should correspond to impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and not self, anatta, in order to aid in the cultivation of wisdom. This is called patipaka nimitta, the use of insight wisdom to contemplate and elaborate. Nimitta denotes meaning. Interpret the visions according to that which they relate. 2. Ukkaha nimitta. Ukkaha nimitta is a vision or sign that arises while sitting in meditation. Once the mind converges into concentration, various visions will arise. They can be scary, pleasant, or even disgusting and repulsive. Every time visions arise, employ wisdom, patipaka nimitta, to contemplate and interpret them. If you don't possess the wisdom to contemplate the ukkaha nimittas, the visions will be useless. Therefore, you must find a way to derive benefit from the visions, because they are an excellent support for wisdom development. 3. Pasanimitta. Pasanimitta is a vision that arises while you are fully awake. It occurs while the person is neither sleeping nor performing tranquil meditation. This type of vision results from the 5 sense bases, ayatana. 3.1. Jakku nimitta. Jakku nimitta is a sign that arises when the eyes sense form and meaning related to that form arises in the mind. It may be that the form is pleasant, thus giving rise to preoccupations, aramana, of love, pleasure, and happiness. This is called sukha vedana, the mind's taking in the preoccupation of happiness. When the eyes take in a form that is displeasing, it is called dukkha vedana, the mind's taking in the preoccupation of suffering. If the internal sense organs come into contact with the external sense objects and there is a feeling of indifference, or neither love nor hate, it is referred to as ubekha vedana. Pasanimitta is when the eye's sense of form, lust arises within the mind, and that form serves as the mind's preoccupation. Sankhara, volitional thought or mental formations, related to that form are then bound to arise. Once sankhara goes down a lustful path, it will suppose things about that form and use them as the basis for volitional thoughts. This is how volitional thoughts, sankhara, and supposition, samutti, are intimately related. This is similar to how once a pen and paper are ready, anything can be written according to the mind's desires. Likewise, if the mind is partial to lustful desire, volitional thought will use the form to fantasize in a lustful fashion. The mind uses that form to create and suppose hypothetical situations, samutti, that fulfill those lustful desires. Pasanimitta gives meaning to form. This is how preoccupations that correspond to worldly trends arise. Both humans and animals that are deluded by the world are deluded by this very same thing. That is why they have consequently continued to be reborn in this world and will continue to be deluded by it. The mind's infatuation with sensual pleasures, kamakuna, will intensify with each passing day. Those who lack wisdom will be unable to find a way out, as the mind is completely obscured by the darkness of ignorance, avijja. Practitioners must study well and understand the root of the cause. The mind cannot distinguish wrong from right, nor what is or isn't suitable. Once the eyes perceive a form, defilements and volitional thoughts infiltrate and derive meaning from what is supposed about that form. Volitional thoughts of beauty, love and pleasure, and fragrant aromas are then triggered and woven into full-fledged situations. Why don't you think about thoughts of the opposite spectrum, of how the human physical form is dirty and foul, or how there is not a single component of the human body that is pleasantly fragrant? You can think about love all day and night, while standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. Even if a person is no longer physically with you or has died many years ago, old preoccupations of love can be dug up and delightfully reflected upon, as if the person were still alive and by your side. Fantasies of adorable conversations, endearing smiles as sweet as sugar, and the sensation of physical contact form in the mind. This is what is called building castles in the sky and painting dreams. You believe in the promises made in this lifetime, that your love will persist until the destruction of the skies and the obliteration of the earth. Why are people capable of thinking up dramatic screenplays that deceive the mind into being obsessed and deluded? What is more, these thoughts are intentionally maintained without any inkling of tiring or resting. It is just like a worm eating a pile of feces. The worm believes it is consuming its favorite dish and would be absolutely uninterested in an offering of the finest first-rate cuisine. The mind that is infatuated and deluded by physical form is just the same. As a practitioner, you must reset this paradigm and change your views. Practice thinking in the opposite direction, as the Buddha instructed. Thoughts of attractiveness, supha, have been deeply ingrained in the mind for such a long time that the mind has become delusional. You must train your wisdom and try to contemplate loathsomeness and impurity, asupha, as previously explained, in order to liberate the mind from the cavernous abyss. 3.2. Sota nimitta. Sota nimitta is a sign that arises when the ears sense sound. This sound becomes a sense object that makes a deep impression on the mind and can engender preoccupations of love. When the sound is charming and enchanting, it is difficult to forget. You wish to hear it constantly. You seek out sounds that are pleasing to you in order to enjoy them. You yearn for those sounds and wish to listen to them around the clock. The sounds that express love are especially enchanting. Teenagers, and even the elderly who are steps away from the coffin, use music as an instrument to express their love for one another. The mind's love and attachment are reflected in music. In other words, both young men and women use sound to bind each other's hearts. It is like two people sitting in a boat floating in the middle of the ocean. Once the boat sinks, the two people will hold on to one another until their final breaths. Likewise, an enraptured mind will use sound to bind itself. Those who frequently traverse the cycle of birth and death in this world are infatuated with sound, aren't they? Practitioners must constantly observe and reflect on their own minds. If your mind is pleased with sound, immediately reverse the inclination and train your mind to no longer be attached to it. Constantly use wisdom to train yourself to understand how sound is used to bind the mind. In this way, the mind will realize and understand the resulting suffering, harmful consequences, and future perils that transpire in terms of defilements and desires. Do not allow sound to dupe the mind into believing that sound is a normal aspect of the world. Otherwise, you will be swept up in the stream of the world for eternity. 3.3. Kana nimitta. Kana nimitta is a sign that arises from the sensing of scent. Fragrant aromas also correspond to the aforementioned concept. The fragrant aroma of flowers or aromatic woods like sandalwood is not nearly as potent as that of our fellow humans. While alive, humans sniff and smell one another according to their respective obsessions. Each person puts on an aromatic facade by showering in powder or perfumes in order to conceal and restrict their organic human stench from proliferating outward, as well as to deceive others into believing that they are naturally fragrant. Those who are delighted by aromatic scents will walk straight into the trap of obsession and infatuation. Thus the saying, "Bees hunt for pollen, flies seek out the putrid, scholars strive for virtue." Which type of insect are you? You must observe yourself. If you are a fly, how will you change your perception to correspond to that of a bee? You, the listener, are probably a bee searching for pollen, or a scholar seeking virtue. Virtuous individuals have a non-diluting, fragrant aroma that emanates in all directions. This is strikingly different from the stench of corrupt, immoral people. Therefore, practitioners should not be infatuated with only fragrant scents, but should also strive to familiarize themselves with foul odors. Aromatic and foul odors are a pair, and exist in concert within each one of us. How can you best maintain the fragrant aroma within yourself for eternity? Sila kanto anuttaro. Those who are innately virtuous will possess aromatic scents that stand out wherever they go. Those lacking mindfulness and wisdom, satipanya, delusionally believe that human scents and various floral aromas are pleasing, and consequently cycle through this world incessantly. 3.4. Rasa nimitta. Rasa nimitta is a sign that arises from the sensing of taste. The term rasa, taste, flavor, or essence, is commonly taken to mean the flavor of food. This connotation is partially accurate, as each individual's elemental body has been trained differently. For instance, one person's body is accustomed to jasmine rice and Thai food, while another has trained their body to be accustomed to cheeseburgers and French fries. Practitioners must train their elemental bodies to be receptive to both cuisines in order to be unattached to particular flavors in food. Practice being someone who is easy to care for. However, those with ailments are excluded from this, as they are restricted to the consumption of foods that do not aggravate those ailments, namely foods that are sapaya, or suitable to that person's physical elements and facilitate relief and comfort. Unfruitful practice cannot be blamed on food. Monks in the Buddha's era, or even in contemporary times, who were attached to familiar flavors were afraid to venture out to different locations because they were afraid that the food out there would be incompatible with their elemental body. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to stomach the food and that they would become emaciated and sick. This type of situation transpired during the Buddha's era. The term rasa can be interpreted in numerous ways, such as, such and such action or speech is completely devoid of flavor. After someone receives compliments or accolades, they might say, "You have great taste." There is the adage, "The flavor of the Dhamma surpasses all other flavors." Thus, rasa can be taken to mean many things. Practitioners should shed inferior worldly flavors and consume the superior flavors of the Dhamma in order to experience positive results. 3.5. Potappa nimitta. Potappa nimitta is a sign that arises from the sensing of touch. It refers to the human skin perceiving hot, cool, or cold temperatures. If the temperature is seasonal or moderate, the human body will receive it well. That is, it will provide relief or comfort. On the other hand, if the temperature is extreme, it will affect both the body and mind. Those accustomed to living in hot climates will be able to do so comfortably. Those accustomed to living in cold climates will be able to do so comfortably. Therefore, find a location that is comfortable for your elemental body. That is, a location that is uttu sapaya, an agreeable season or climate. If you are able to select a location with weather that is agreeable to your elemental body, your practice will transpire smoothly and be free of obstacles. Regarding the subject of males and females, if there is sensation from skin contact and you lack comprehensive wisdom, it is more than likely that lustful emotions will arise and you will want to immerse yourself in them. If you are inclined toward lust for sensual pleasures, kama raka, and you experience a soft cushion or bed, lustful sensations may arise as well. Preoccupations of volitional thoughts about the opposite sex may arise. Thus, practitioners, especially novice monks, should take special care to study and understand both the internal sense organs and external sense objects. lay practitioners will find it difficult to practice because of the frequent proximity to and intermingling with the opposite sex. For instance, Visakha attained Sotapanna as an adolescent. When she reached her teens, she married because she was still pleased by fine sense pleasures, Gamakuna. The aforementioned 5 sense pleasures will be completely known only by those who have the corresponding character and potential primed to attain anagami or arahantship. This is because only they are capable of keeping their sense bases, ayatana, composed. The Sotapanna are not yet capable. Even for the Sakadagami, subtle forms of lust, raka, and repulsion, patika, still lie latent in their minds. How can those who have not realized any of the 4 stages of attainment, putuchana, boast that they have shed their sense bases, ayatana? Their minds definitely seek out sensory experiences, and those resulting preoccupations are deeply impressed on the mind. Such preoccupations arise from perception and sensation through the sense bases, and are linked to the mental aggregate, namakanda, called vedana. Vedana is defined as preoccupations within the mind that arise from tangible form, rupakanda, as previously described. The 4 elements, earth, water, wind, and fire, congregate as the tangible form. As the internal sense organs come into contact with the external sense objects, preoccupations arise within the mind. Details of this process will not be explained here because they are already described in many manuals. I have explained the internal and external sense bases in order to serve as a resource for Dhamma practice. The effectiveness of the application of these resources is dependent on each individual's own ability. This is because, in order to keep the sense bases composed, one must have mindfulness, sati, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, paññā. May you understand this accordingly. The 3 nimittas that have been discussed here include supina nimitta, ukkaha nimitta, and phassa nimitta. Supina nimitta refers to dreams while sleeping. Ukkaha nimitta refers to meditating to the point of calm, and various images arise. These images can be adorable, frightening, or repulsive. Phassa nimitta denotes perception through the sense bases, as previously explained. 4. Patipaka nimitta. Patipaka nimitta is a conceptualized image or counter-image. As there are many who do not understand this concept, I will break it down into simpler terms. Pati means to practice or train. Paka means to elaborate, analyze, explain, and hypothesize. Nimitta refers to meaning. For instance, if the eyes perceive a tangible form, the form will become a sense object. If the ears perceive sound, that sound will become a sense object. Taken all together, Patipaka nimitta refers to how wisdom must be used in practice in order to contemplate meanings, as previously explained. From here on out, train your mind to go against the stream. When the eyes perceive an 80-year-old person, wisdom can be used to contemplate this sign or image straight away. Take the discomforts and inconveniences of the elderly and internalize them. If you were similarly 80 years old, you would also experience discomforts and inconveniences. Similarly, upon seeing an afflicted or sick individual, use wisdom to contemplate and internalize the parallel in the same way. In terms of death, you have attended many funerals. Upon seeing a coffin, you must use wisdom and apply the coffin as a meaningful nimitta. Right now, someone else is lying in the coffin. Internalize that. One day in the future, you will also be lying in a coffin. Everyone must inevitably encounter this. Everyone is subject to this inescapable truth. You must derive benefit from attending the funeral. It is as if you are there to realize the pitiful truth that both their life and your life must transpire in the same way. Right now, it's their turn to leave you. In the days ahead, it will be your turn to leave your friends and relatives and separate from the things that you love. In Dhamma practice, you must use wisdom to contemplate, discern, clarify, and elaborate various issues and internalize them. If the nimitta is related to something physical or elemental, dhatu, internalize it in terms of the 4 elements of earth, water, wind, and fire. Make sure it relates to the principles of the 3 common characteristics, that is, impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and the cause of suffering, and not self, anatta. If the nimitta is related to something that has ceased to exist, then use wisdom to contemplate in terms of anatta, the non-existence as an animal, individual, self, us, or them. For issues related to defilements and desires, wisdom should be used to think in terms of evil defilements, kilesa mara, that incite feelings of love and pleasure within the mind. In every situation, use patipaka nimitta, that is, wisdom, to contemplate the meaning of the nimitta. If you use wisdom to contemplate death so frequently that it becomes habitual, that is called training in paññā vimutti. Using wisdom to contemplate impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and not self, anatta, or other issues, is also considered training in paññā vimutti. Thus, may the listener understand the meaning of the various nimittas, as well as the causal relationships as explained above. May you use patipaka nimitta, that is, wisdom, to analyze every single issue that the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body sense. You must use wisdom to contemplate every situation because the external sense objects are material for wisdom contemplations. Therefore, you must continue to put forth effort in applying wisdom to contemplate indisputable truths, such as Dhamma.